Hello, I'm Jane from Calm Therapy and welcome to Conversations with Calm Therapy. We're entering fourth week of quarantine, so I hope everyone is well and healthy and adjusting to this new way of life. So Conversations with Calm Therapy, it's a project where I interview a series of complementary therapists and business advisors during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is to create connection amongst business owners and also offers you, the viewers, tips on how to cope with these sudden changes and how to manage your fear that rises with uncertainty and perhaps how to learn how to release this fear and move forward. I'll also be asking each guest about any useful rituals or activities that we can add to our daily routines during our time at home. So our guest today is Tim Rylatt. Tim is a business coach and is providing sound, calm advice during the coronavirus pandemic. So hello, Tim, and welcome.
Morning.
So please, can you introduce yourself, give a brief history about yourself and what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So, thanks for the invitation to take part in this, Jane. As you mentioned, my name is Tim Rylatt. I have been a business coach for the past 10 years, but I also am a director in 2 marketing agencies in Sussex as well. So I am a business owner as well as a business advisor. I have a team, I have overheads, I have clients, I have all the things that I suspect your audiences do. I have the stresses and worries that they do as well. But my background is a little bit different to most business coaches and business owners in the sense of I was actually a police officer for 10 years, and the last 4 years of that I was actually a police training officer. So I've got a fair amount of experience of dealing with stressful environments where you have to learn fast and adapt to the circumstance. And I thought when you asked me about this project that might be something I could draw on and be helpful to your audience through.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for being part of this. So I'm going to go straight to the questions now. And I ask each of my guests the same 3 questions and hope that you will answer from your area of expertise. So the first question is, we are going through unprecedented times of sudden change. How might we maintain the positive outlook and a feeling of connection whilst we are in periods of isolation?
Sure, Jane. I have to say, when you said I asked all the advisors the same questions, I thought you were going to say sooner or later we're hoping one of them's going to get it right. But
it's all different people from different backgrounds, so it's good to hear different aspects of how people answer.
Yeah, I think in terms of isolation, the reality is the world is less busy. Excuse the phone going in the background. The reality is you're less isolated now than many would have been in prior times. If you took it back to wartime, when there wasn't the internet, there wasn't any of that, when actually the threat was genuinely to life rather than just to environment. I think context helps a lot, is my point. So when you think about the reality of where you're at, yes, you have some social distancing. Yes, you have some limits on actual face-to-face or giving the people you love a hug. But we know that it is likely to be temporary. We know that actually those people are being kept safe by our actions. And I think reinforcing that message that the reason you are isolated is because you care, and the reason they're isolated is because they care, is actually very helpful. And I think mastering technology to stay in touch, get the video conferencing like we're doing, even a phone call, anything where you can hear their voice or see their face will help a bit on that.
Brilliant, thank you. So on to the second question. It's known that fear can have a negative impact on our body. How might people release themselves from this fear to reduce mental and physical health issues and perhaps to move forward?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Back when I was a police officer, the reason I left my career in the police force was actually I broke my knee quite badly. And it meant that for quite a long time after I had that injury, I was having physiotherapy and trying to get back to full fitness. And my fear at that time was it's not going to get better and that might end my career. And that fear was much worse than the reality. I thought, what am I going to do afterwards if I can't do that? My skill set's all within the police force. The reality was I had a lot of transferable skills and a lot of things that I could use elsewhere. So I think part of this comes down to, if the worst happens, if you lose your job, if your business folds, you are more capable than you believe, 100% more capable than you believe. And if you doubt that, ask the people around you that work with you, that live with you, that know you, you will come out of it and you will survive. I think, however, the likelihood of those things happening is also, the fear is bigger in your mind than in reality. And if you do things like run a cash flow forecast, if you actually take account of your real circumstance and plan out what does the future look like, whether it tells you something that's pretty or whether it tells you something that's ugly, you'll know what's coming. And that knowledge, that awareness of what's actually coming up allows you to deal with it. I think all the time you leave it as, I'm not going to look at the numbers, or I'm not going to look at my cash flow, or I don't want to see what that's going to look like for me in a few weeks' time, you worry about it at a much bigger level than it needs to be. I think perhaps that forethought and being willing to take a look at the future confidently, whether that's plus or minus for you, it will take a lot of that stress out.
Brilliant. Very sound advice there. So question 3, based on your experiences, can you suggest any useful rituals or activities that we can add to our routines to support us during this new way of life?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that, if you get sucked into the problem totally, then you're not actually in a particularly healthy place. So make sure that you are taking those breaks, going for walks, try and read something, listen to some music, try and distract your brain from time to time. If you simply sit there and work non-stop, even though the problem might be big, you don't give yourself any time to recover. And I think it's more of a marathon and a sprint. And when you look at actually how marathon runners that are successful win, whilst they're still running, there are times when they're running faster and times when they're running slower. And the reason they're doing that is they're pacing themselves and they're judging how things are going to be moving forwards. And I think if you can keep that balance, if you can take a breath, just take a stop, get somebody else's opinion on the matter, and give yourself that ability to have a break, that will help. And I also think an independent viewpoint really matters. When you take a look at people who are under pressure, they tend to have that fight, flight, or freeze mentality. And it's very difficult for the human brain to actually handle it. When you're under threat, you go into that freeze mode or flight or fight. It's I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Chimp Paradox. It's a great book by a chap called, I think, Steve Parks was his name. And it's all about how there are 3 parts to your brain, and one part of it, the part that deals with fear, actually does not allow the other parts of your brain to command you at that time. It will only allow you to respond in certain ways. So if you can't do that for yourself because you're under pressure, then stop and seek somebody else who doesn't have that same pressure applied, somebody who's independent to that risk, and ask them their advice. And as long as you trust them and believe in what they're saying, you may well be wise to take their advice rather than your own. So I think sometimes that independent brain is very helpful.
Definitely. It's sort of someone mirroring what's going on in your life, and someone who can just give you good feedback, basically, and support you in that way. So yeah, thank you. That's brilliant. So Tim, how can we find out more about you? Do you have a website? What if somebody would like to ask for your support?
Yeah, sure. So I think from the business perspective, if you visit www.growthcoach.co.uk, that'll take you to my business coaching firm. And if you want to take a look at the marketing side, it's www.growth-by-design.co.uk. If you want to reach me personally, you can do it via email, so tim@growthcoach.co.uk. I'll put you in touch. And I think the best I can offer at the moment is very simply an open ear. If you want to talk and chat through those things, I'm happy to put a bit of time aside, even outside of the pure business side of things. I got into business coaching because I knew that the vast majority of businesses that start don't actually make it. The vast majority actually fail by 5 years. And beyond that, there's a similar attrition rate 3 to 10 years. And my, I suppose, mission as a business coach was to reverse the percentage that actually fails versus survives. So I want to help more survive. And if that means just spending a few minutes on a phone, chatting through some issues, offering some advice, happy to do it. just drop me an email. We'll arrange a time. I'll happily have a chat with you. And I think for now, that's probably all I want to say on that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Tim, and thank you so much for taking part in this project. I'll be posting this video to my YouTube channel, which is Conversations with Calm Therapy. So to the viewers, please click on it, subscribe, and please share it to your social media. And then you'll be able to keep up to date with any latest videos that I post there. So yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.